All right, Dave, I think we're live.
Hey, Kyle. Good afternoon. Good
How's
to
it going?
going well, thanks. Looking forward to our conversation today. So thanks to everyone for joining us. We're going to be talking about unlocking the value of enhanced tenant experiences over the next 30 minutes. And what's really intriguing to me about this topic, Kyle, is what you and the Meridian Group team are doing to transform your portfolio by putting tenant experience at the center of the bullseye, right? So when you do that, I think what you find that shift starts to have an impact on all aspects of your business. So super excited to be a part of the conversation. But more importantly, I'm really looking forward to learning from your experiences and sort of directionally where you're headed.
So yeah, I'm excited about our partnership and looking to talk a little bit more about it today and some of the things we're working on.
Well, awesome. Well, let's get some foundational stuff out of the way, just in terms of kind of background, and then we'll just dive into the meat of it. So I'm Dave McGinnis. I head up business development for Openpath. And like many of our prop tech brethren at this conference, we're a relatively new player in market. In 2016, our founders started working towards our first flagship platform, which is access control. And their motivation behind that was they recognized that access control as an industry was in dire need of innovation. Technology hadn't really changed much since the 1990s. Really built around a guard experience as compared to operational administrators or even end users. So it was an inconvenient technology to utilize. And because it was the standard were unsecure parts. So we spent 2 years in R&D and patenting some key technology breakthroughs. And then we launched in 2018. And our focus was on the end user experience. So think cloud, open APIs, and a mobile first approach. And we thought mobile was a key next phase of access control because it opens the doors to so many net new services that could be introduced, new operational efficiencies that could be harnessed. So we iterated, right? And constantly looking at how do we improve that mobile experience. And the motivation behind that is largely that access control industry-wide mobile credential adoption is struggling to get to 10%. And that's clearly not good enough. That tells you that something is wrong. And it's primarily because it's not reliable and it's been a clumsy experience for end users. And in 2019, we introduced sort of a breakthrough game-changing capability that we call Touch. And what that experience enables is I have my mobile credential on my phone, I've got it locked, I've got it in my pocket, I've got it in my laptop bag. I simply walk up to the door, touch the reader with the back of my hand, and that door magically unlocks. It was cool and it was impactful. And impactful we measure based on adoption. And so when we look at the industry at large trying to get to 10% adoption, for Openpath, we're over 90% adoption for mobile. So there's still 10% of users or less than that use cards. The vast majority are mobile-based. Happens, right? And so this really cool technology of touch to open, all of a sudden is something that no one wants to do. So because our technology, the way we built it, the way we architected it, we were able to adjust the telemetry on our readers, push that from the cloud down to every customer site in a matter of days without requiring an on-site tech or any sort of van roll. And all of a sudden we have this magical wave to unlock, so 100% contactless experience. And I think, Kyle, that's probably how, one of the early touch points for when we got connected.
Yeah, I think it was in February that we started talking. And just to back up and give an overview on who we are, the Meridian Group. Meridian Group is a DC area focused real estate owner and operator, as well as an institutional fund manager with a series of discretionary value add funds. We've been around for 27 years, but hadn't started the fund model until around 2011. And since that time, we've invested over $1.5 billion in equity. At this current time, we manage over 10 million square feet of real estate in the DC metro area. So that includes downtown DC, Northern Virginia, and suburban Maryland across office, residential, and mixed use. I think the key thing that everyone should on the presentation here today should know about Meridian is we really believe that our fully integrated team and platform and our owner-operator model with fully discretionary capital provides a competitive advantage in our market, both to take advantage of situational investment opportunities, where I'm an investor first and foremost, but also to provide that holistic tenant experience and be nimble about innovating and creating thoughtful placemaking. So, in terms of my role, just quickly, I'm on the acquisitions and capital markets team, but at the end of last year, I'm now the leader of innovation at our firm, well, acquisition and capital markets team, and also a key member of our ESG committee. Obviously, a big part of what we're looking to do in the future is taking the tenant experience to the next level and providing kind of the health and wellness factors that now have been rapidly accelerated due to COVID. So, just Dave, going back, we obviously got started off by thinking about, some of our new redevelopments, so not the existing portfolio when we first started talking, just wanted to provide kind of that next thing, that next capability that was going to be a hook. And that's really where we started and talking about some of these things here that I know you all at Openpath are excited about. We can go into them a little bit, but I think just flipping the page, I think this is where we probably started, and these are actually renderings of the project that we're excited to announce our partnership with at 1333 New Hampshire in DuPont Circle in downtown DC. So we really started there, as you might recall, Dave, and I think through our conversations and then COVID, I think we're excited about the future and capabilities that we'll be able to offer to our tenants.
Right. Yeah. So talk a little bit, if you can, Kyle, about, so location has always been like kind of the core tenet of real estate, and how you've kind of shifted that location thought set from physical space, right, and finishes to all of a sudden now part of that is a shift to digital, right, in terms of how we change the way tenants interact with the physical world. And so that's part of what got me excited or gets me excited about the Meridian Group vision is it's sort of the melding of those two, right? It's the physical and the digital. Now you're able to deliver net new experiences or access to amenities that span more than one building, right? One more than one physical address. And part of that is mobile, right?
And
so it's foundationally, we think it's, you've got to have that sort of innovative concept of what's going to be relevant, what's going to be highly desired by tenants, and then you kind of, you experiment with that. We believe foundationally that a really sticky ingredient is a natively integrated access experience, right? So now I'm going to rely upon my phone as really that single device form factor that's going to unlock doors and unlock capabilities that a plastic card certainly can't, such as, hey, I want to be able to reserve space, and I can't do that strictly with a card. I'd have to go to another system. But if I have a credential on my phone and that credential is within an app, now I can do all sorts of things, can't I?
Yeah, and for us, when we kind of were working on the physical experience, which has been something that we've been, doing placemaking, and the physical aspect of real estate is in our DNA, but trying to then advance that to the next level. And real estate, as we all know, has been a little bit slower on the uptick with technology and offering that back to the tenants who we view in part as our end customer. And so, interestingly enough, working on an app that would be able to bridge the gap between the physical experience and the digital experience to our tenants, but then kind of looking at like potential problems of adoption. And so, to your point, Dave, thinking about the stickiness factor, that is really where we get excited, because by integrating the app that allows us to provide the level of service that we want as an operator, by integrating the access control and now telling everyone, hey, download the app so that you can access our buildings and you can reserve your conference center and have access to the space, whether it's in your building or at our borough district out in Northern Virginia, the building down the street.
Yeah. And to me, that's really cool when you start going across properties, because you can start to broaden the curb appeal of your properties for tenants, right? I want to be in a marine property.
Right.
And part of those services, I'm sure, is, especially looking through the lens of COVID-19, it's as you prepare for return to work or return reoccupancy of space, it's, there's a psychological, there's emotional, there's a physical aspect or itch that you have to scratch for tenants and for employees so that they feel to the built world, right? And we've seen innovation in this space, and again, it's really the prop tech community coming together and leveraging some core technology attributes like cloud systems and open APIs, right, where you can now deliver connectivity, interoperability between systems to create either net new experiences that ultimately combine to create safer and healthier spaces. So for us, it was obviously that touch-free. So going from touch to open to handwave. But there's also using different types of sensors, whether those are video-based analytics or whether there are people counting sensors that you put in place. But the ability to manage loads, right, load in, load out of space, because that reoccupancy is going to be less than it was in February, pre-pandemic, right? So the ability to kind of say, this is how many people we're going to allow in at any one given point in time. And then through those API integrations, you can just dynamically, so without human intervention, once you set that threshold, let the system automatically, access privileges are activated or they're suspended based upon occupancy counts. And you use this, I imagine, Kyle, at a building level. You could do it. You could do it within amenity space.
Yeah.
Right? So you have full control.
We also taking that, while it's creating a safer and healthier space, and that's first and foremost right now, the ability for us to continue to use this technology and also provide kind of our service. So by having it come to us and to the tenants at the same time, but pushed out maybe with a nice message, the type of brand that we want to convey to our tenants, I think is important. And it's not as simple as, a tenant trying to figure out where do they go to see what the occupancy level is. We can customize alerts to our tenants as well, to make it even safer. And we're also evaluating like elevator spaces as well. And we can talk a little bit, because I know you've got some new technology that you're excited about that could potentially help there. But that's a place. I live in a walk-up of elevator building today. I can tell you that that's a place of concern, and the backup of the elevators and how many people are waiting in line. So just another use case that I think we're using technology to solve for that we did not even think of until COVID had happened, but then being able to quickly address it because, some of our relationships and conversations we've had, Dave, you can talk about some of these other things.
Yeah, so certainly in the same spirit of safety and wellness, keeping spaces healthier, we see different approaches, right? And it's not to say that what we're finding is a mix and match. Some are raising to the top, like we believe the wellness questionnaires or self-attestations are a really effective tool for self-validation. So any day that I'm scheduled to come into the office, I use my tenant experience app. I answer those 4 questions. My answers are scored on a risk matrix, and depending on whether I'm safe, I don't put the building or colleagues at risk, or whether I'm identified as potentially at risk. different API calls, right, that automatically either enable my access privilege for the day, send me a message that, hey, I need to self-quarantine, right, or I should go get a test. And until such time, I'm going to be unable to get into the building, whether I show up with my phone or with a card. We see the same with temperature screening. And I know the Meridian Group has looked at all different sort of approaches to work strategies. And some I think are rising to the top. I think certainly self-attestation. I think occupancy management. Those are kind of key capabilities that not only are tactical and important in the short term, but I think they have value in the long term if you make the right investments. And you hit on a point, Kyle, talking about amenity and maybe membership access across the Meridian Group portfolio. Love to talk about how you're discovering it unlocks value for you.
Yeah, I think when we think about the future of what tenants want, it's not only a physical space to be productive, healthy, and help them win the war for talent, but it's also a network of sorts and being part of a community. And our borough district is a good example of that. And what we're excited about and what we're finding is that by offering a experience that goes outside of your building, but actually be a part of this community, it really has resulted in increased tenant retention. We've had the majority of leasing in Tyson's in this part of our portfolio, and we're able to get a premium rent as a result of the environment that we've created. So there in itself is something that now taking that to the next level is, okay, we talked about shared amenities, but how can we do it and automate it so that we're causing less strain on our property management staff? That's where Openpath comes in and what we're exciting about. So, when you think about kind of the levers to pull, it's revenue, it's operating expenses. You can just one example is based on the access, who's in and out of the building. You obviously have open API and you can deliver data to us on real time on who's in buildings. We can cleaning schedules. And that's something that we're doing now in light of the buildings being low occupancies. And then we talked about the reservation booking system. The way it's set up, and every landlord and owner and investor might be different, but the tenants in a given building, they can use that amenity. What we like about and where we truly believe that Openpath will help us unlock this value is to sync up with the reservation and booking system and then allow it to be automated so that if a tenant books on the app, they now have access to it. We don't have to have any property manager assign them credentials. They can go in and we could begin to monetize that. So I think that's some of the low-hanging fruit when you think about kind of driving NOI and value here. We can talk a little bit more later about looking into the future and possibly how this blends with our investment strategy. But I know, Dave, you guys at Openpath are definitely thinking like, okay, yeah, Kyle, you've got the low-hanging fruit. Here's some next things to think about going forward.
Yeah. And what I love also just about the borough district, just your vision and what you've implemented and continue to iterate, is how you're looking at, to me, I look at it as it's a portfolio within a portfolio. It's that community aspect. So on this graphic, if I'm a tenant in building the 8280, but for a reason, maybe for a business reason, I need to use amenity asset at Borough Station, that reservation platform through that app. I now have dynamic credentials that get me into Borough Station, right, at my specified date time. And it also covers my path to travel, right? So if it's a meeting first thing in the morning, I need parking, right, over at Borough Station. So that's provisioned for me. I need access then into the lobby, perhaps through the elevators, up to a floor that has that amenity space. And then that enables me to get into that space and it's secured for me. That's sort of like the jaw-dropping experience that prop tech technology enables. And, so with that, we know that data becomes a really important and valuable asset for prop, especially as you're modernizing and access control. I can't imagine a better starting point or foundational element for data than access control, right? We know that every tenant needs a secure means of gaining access into a building. And so that's where we started access control. But we also know that, while today most properties are secured because of COVID, because occupancy levels are low, because staffing is on a just like it used to, so you keep doors locked. But as we return to something that's more normal again, we expect doors to be unlocked, right? And so how do you capture that data when the door is unlocked? By enabling a high adoption mobile application, right, and having an access credential tied to that, you can purpose Openpath readers that become effectively additional net new sensors for you, right? And so this presence data begins to reveal uniqueness of identities, right, or a number of individuals, unique individuals that are in a space, and maybe from a micro location standpoint, where they go or where they're around. You get time and date stamps, so you can start to get a better understanding of how space is utilized. And of course, that can feed from a sustainability standpoint, that can feed other systems, right? It gives you the ability from a tenant experience standpoint to maybe continue to iterate and create customized experiences for them and enable scheduling, resource scheduling. But I think it also informs you over time of how space is utilized as you think about new development or redevelopment projects. So we're really excited about this new introduction of our platform. It's really landlord targeted, but also for occupiers. And since we're now installed at over 100 portfolios, really now on a global basis, we know we most likely have some customers that are on this call. If anyone has an interest in this, we'll have contact information at the end of the slides. Please don't hesitate to reach out directly to me. I'd love to get you introduced to this. Let's talk a little bit about prop tech and sort of the shift from traditional building technologies, sort of what I alluded to from the legacy, just from an access control standpoint. Technology is on premise, right? It's running on Windows-based machines, and sort of what's important as you think about prop tech and the impact of the technology stack. So for me, what we hear most commonly is these four areas. It's native cloud, so I think there's truly a rallying around the benefits of cloud computing. Right? Every other industry has migrated to this computing platform or technology architecture, and property technology is accelerating that. And for real estate, as compared to closed point-to-point integrations are becoming much more desirable. And that's just because it drives, it liberates the pace of innovation, right? You can start to unlock hidden value system to system as those systems talk. Literally, what you're doing at the Meridian Group, Kyle, from a mobile platform, that becomes sort of your digital interaction as a tenant. And then the data technologies make available to you as an owner change things. But I'm sure one of the things it does is it changes the way you make selections or the way you think about net new strategies, right?
Yeah, I think we're excited about the Internet of Things and the reduced cost of these sensors, and obviously you're providing kind of not only a solution and new capability to what we want to offer our tenants, but also kind of a new data point that will really allow us to potentially drive different decision making on future investments, whether that's on the existing portfolio or new acquisitions. I think one thing that we wanted to talk about, from my lens, was how are we, as a owner operator of real estate, just an example, how are we thinking about where to start with prop tech and leverage all of the things that you just talked about, Dave, and really, I think a lot about kind of the tenant experience and moving that to today where we're thinking about both physically and digitally and enabled by technology. And so what that means is that you need someone on leasing. You need someone on the tenant. We have a dedicated tenant experience team. Someone there. You need someone on property management and potentially engineering, depending which technology you're working on. If we're talking about tying this in to, you know, the HVAC systems, I probably need someone on my engineering team to be part of the conversation. And so what this ends up being is, while it's a focus on the tenant experience, you need to make sure that you're including people across all of your functional different teams. And so that's what we did. And at Meridian, we established an innovation task force, and, you know, we worked together. We talked about various things, and kind of the two must-haves today were the tenant app and the access control system, which we view as kind of the foundational layer great on top of. And that's what we're excited about, is having that set up and then using data to drive the next iteration of prop tech across the portfolio.
Yeah, that's great. So, you know, what I'd love to do, Kyle, is, you know, kind of wrapping up is, let's go back to your role. So before you started leading the innovation team, group, really, you know, your day job is on the investment side, right? It's capital markets.
Yeah, it is.
So how does this all tie back to, you know, from an investment standpoint? How does this make a positive impact on your core function?
Yeah, so the way that we think about any technology is, first and foremost, can we increase NOI as a result of that? But then, so where does it fit within the investment strategy for that investment? So one thing that I would encourage people to look at, and Dave, I know that we've worked with you all on, was figuring out the right structure that makes sense for us based on the hold period. We're a value add investor, so based on the hold period and how we reduce our capital outlay potentially. And that's true of other technologies that we'll look at. And so it might not be always as simple. And this is, I think, key for value add investors. I don't think it's always as simple as a payback period, because we could own something for 2 to 3 years. However, I think if anything that this summit and those of you who've been listening in throughout the 2 days so far has taught, is that this is something that's on the mind of any real estate investor going forward. And we're a value add investor who typically sells to core buyers. Buyers of real estate they want to do the least amount of work and get the highest cash flow. So that means not thinking about technology, not thinking about what's required to retain tenants. And so by enabling new technologies, we think that not only will core buyers be more attracted to these type of assets, but they might be willing to pay more. And so that's where we have started to lean in, and why we're doing more today than we may have done a year ago.
That's great. I know we've got, for those of you that are available, we've got sort of a 10-minute hiatus to do a demonstration of Openpath technology, and then we'll have a Q&A. And of course, if you're unable to stick around through the Q&A, or if a question comes up after the fact, please don't hesitate to reach out directly to myself. Our contact information is here, as well as links to our websites. Thank you for your time. Thanks for the support and the enthusiasm. And we look forward to a great day 3 tomorrow. We'll talk to you in 10 minutes.